Raluca.
Hi, I'm Howard Drukarsh, co-founder of Home Realty and podcast host of Real Estate with Howard Drukarsh.
And I'm Raluca Arlia. I'm co-founder of Decoro Software Solutions, and I'm also a realtor with Right at Home. And today we want to discuss a little bit more about entrepreneurship.
Right.
And one of the best people to tell us about that is yourself, because you're disruptor, as they call you in the industry.
Right, and I take that as a badge of honor.
It's a badge of honor. So one of the main things, did you have an entrepreneur in the family? Is that something that helped you become one or drove you to become one?
I did. My parents never worked for it. They had their own businesses, whether it was they had a dress shop, they had a convenience store, or a snack bar. So I never had any experience where my parents would come home and talk about a boss. So the idea of working for another company just seemed so weird to me. Although I did it until I got into real estate. But that really
didn't suit you. It didn't work.
Well, I never heard about people being unhappy with their boss. So that was, although people do enjoy their work and they like, where they're working, but for me, it just didn't seem right. So eventually, I went to university and got a degree in accounting. I went to accounting. That wasn't for me. I went into marketing, really enjoyed that, advertising, and then decided to go into real estate with my wife at the same time. Which again, what I find looking back in my life, I am the biggest risk taker I know. We just both went in at the same time,
both feet.
Leaving jobs, and we worked well together. Although I have to tell you a good story. I think I told you this once before. When you work with your spouse, it's a balancing act, right? And you know about this.
Yes.
So we were just starting out, and then we weren't sure who does what, and I said, okay, let's go into the conference room and discuss it. So we go into this conference room, and it was, I don't know if it was heated per se, but disagreements. And then when we leave, I turn around and I saw that there was a gap of 2 feet between the top of the wall and the ceiling.
And this is why he doesn't approve of people having relationships in the office,
that's
right?
That's a good reason, right? Unless you have a full wall, and it's a little bit different. So that's what got me interested in real estate, because we talked about this in an earlier episode. There's no ceiling. You're your own boss. You work really hard. You do really well. We worked as a team. We worked really well together. We did very well.
But then you took it a step further. You took another risk.
This is the part that always amazes me. Why did I do that?
Why did you start Right at Home? That is a big risk. It was obviously working for you as a real estate agent, and that's...
I was a successful agent. My late partner, Arthur Bartram, and I knew each other. He had been the area manager, and then he was the manager of the office I was in. And we got along great. And one day he comes back from Florida with this purple piece of paper, and he says, hey, Howie. He was the first person that called me Howie since my dad. But anyway, he says, hey, Howie, what do you think of this? And it was the model that we decided to launch in Canada, which is 100% commission, low monthly fees, low transaction fees. So I thought, okay, I'm an agent. Sounds good to me. Let's start a business.
And that was unheard of at the time. That's why they called you the disruptor.
Right, because there was no brokerages that offered that. So then he said, okay, I'll write a business plan. So he wrote a business plan. We went to a few people we thought would be investors, and they just thought we're crazy. And one of our former board members, right on board, said, what you're trying to sell is an idea about an idea. Right?
That's interesting.
Not easy to sell that, right?
But did you find getting all the no's drove you more as an entrepreneur? Did it light a fire getting the no's in the beginning? Because some people would be disappointed, maybe tuck and roll and go back, but...
I just, and this is a little bit about you and I doing these things as well. I just had a gut feeling it was going to work out. And my partner Arthur and I had known each other for many years, and every time we got a no, we would just go have a tea. It's like, that was as far as there was no unhappiness. Like, okay, we'll try again. He was a great partner. And then we got...
Very positive attitude.
Right, and you have to be in sales or as an entrepreneur. You know all this stuff as well as I do, right? You just smile more than me, but you know all this stuff. So then fortunately, both of us were introduced through another board member. Teddy Manzieris introduced us to Ron Petticourt, who at a relatively young age had retired from Cadillac Fairview. He had been in the development business, corporate, knew all that stuff, liked what we were doing. Ron joined us, the three of us started the company together. From that point on, it was like the disruptor. I remember like the early days, we had no agents. That's the other thing. We started a brokerage with no agents. Nobody does that. So
you have to be really good at selling to get them on board with an idea that was never heard of.
right. So we used whatever we could to get people to come to the office, and then they would join us, and we would both, because we had nothing else to do, we'd both sit in the office selling. It was crazy. But eventually, and people would join us with this attitude. Well, I'm going to make 100% commission as long as they survive. So it wasn't like we're going to be a big company.
Survival of the fittest. Yeah.
Right. But then they realized we were okay, and then they tell other agents, and other agents would join. Word of mouth was really what got us going. And
very much how real estate works, me.
yeah, real estate works, and in our business, it was word of mouth, and eventually we got more agents and more agents. And Ron and myself and Arthur and our wives were so excited when we got 10 agents that we thought we basically hit the jackpot. The company now has around 6,000,
wow.
So it's been quite the journey. Well, really, when people ask me, you must be so proud of what you've accomplished. And it's a really simple answer for me, and you get it because you're an entrepreneur. Lots of people have ideas. Some of them decide to start a business. Very few of those businesses survive. And the fact that I started a business that survived and changed, literally changed real estate.
It did.
In the model we had, that's a feeling. And we couldn't have done it without the three of us. Arthur had skills in terms of, he understood being a broker of record. I love talking to people just like you, and I believe so strongly in our model that it wasn't like I was trying to hustle anybody or give them a sales presentation. I knew, because I was an agent. If I could earn 100% instead of 40, 50, or 60, or 80, and I pay a low monthly fee and a low deal fee, why wouldn't I do that?
It's one of the reasons why I also joined.
Right, well, there you go.
The model works.
Right, so it worked, and so eventually it grew. And that was kind of what got me into it. But the three of us had different skills. And Ron was, and I say this, Ron was as close to brilliant as I've ever met anybody in business. He was good in finance, he knew HR, he knew law.
Helped you guys grow.
He was driven almost as much as you.
It's important. Drive is
the reason we work well together is I've worked with your personality before.
So you're used to it.
I'm used to this pace of commitment and integrity, and Raluca and I have started these videos not too long ago, but it was just like immediate. We hit it off, and I think it's because we're both entrepreneurs, and I don't think you can't imagine. It's like you can't imagine what it's like to be a parent. You can't imagine what it's like to be an entrepreneur. You have to be one.
You have to be one.
And on the podcast show I did, produced by Adam Price, by the way, our guests were all highly successful people in real estate. And I just related so well to them because all of these people
had the drive.
They had the drive, and they were entrepreneurs. So that's really what's been the fun part of my career is meeting people that I liked. But taking the chance. I just saw an article from a guy who built a really big company in the U.S. First question they asked him was, would you do it again?
I was just going to ask you that at the end of it all.
And he said no.
At least he was honest, right?
And I posted that on my LinkedIn because I thought it was such a good article being on for. You're it. So let me ask you. When you started out with Decoro and Simon, you've known Simon a long time.
Childhood friends.
Right, and you had your other business. You had a
I was a design consultant, so in the same industry.
Okay.
I was basically doing everything manually for developers. I was still facilitating the entire finishes process.
Okay. But then when you went to this next step of this partner in the business, things change. Or do they?
Change for the better.
No, not in a bad way necessarily, right?
No, we already had the same dynamic. We already knew we had the same communication skills. We had the same drive, and we had the same end goal in mind.
Okay.
So it was very easy to put that together, and we had fun. Because you're going to have really crappy days. And,
right.
We're going to hear no. Like, you heard no a lot. You hear no a lot.
Well, we had years and decades of time to learn about crappy days.
And you're going to make mistakes, but how do you grow together?
Right.
And you don't hate each other, and how do you communicate through all those changes and move past that and go towards the end goal? So we meshed really well on that, but we're enjoying it. I think that's the fun part.
And that's the same thing. I enjoyed working with Arthur, enjoyed working with Ron, and now, since Arthur passed away, Ron and I work together even closer. And really, it's like a blessing to be able to look at something you've created.
It's like a baby.
Like a baby. And you said that to me when we first started talking together.
Our company's our baby.
You said it's your baby, and it was ours. And you cannot find, folks, you cannot find an employee that feels that way. You can hire presidents left and right, you whatever you want.
To let go.
It's not their business.
No.
So, that's the difference in being an entrepreneur. And you have to be resilient. You have to be flexible. You have to be lucky. Those
It
are
does
all
take a little bit.
right?
A little bit of luck, yeah.
Right. So in terms of that's a little bit about both of us, and we drop that into different episodes as we do it. But I thought it'd be important, Raluca did as well, to find a little more about how do we get to where we are.
Yeah, a little bit of a human connection.
Human
Who
connection.
we are.
All right. So I hope you enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yes,
And
thank
we'll
you.
see you next time. Thanks.